All right. 7-star. Mightiest Emboar. Next raid coming up here soon. Hasn't started yet. Gotta prepare. I think today we will spend some time theory crafting, looking at what our options are. Done a little bit of research into it. A couple ideas cooking. So today we're going to look at what those options are, see if they're any good. Looked at what other people are looking at building. Maybe we'll take a look and rank them. See if anybody's ideas are any better than mine. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. Not too many tricks an Emboar can pull. Mostly just going to be a physical attacker. Probably an all-out attacking moveset, honestly. Dishing out a lot of damage. Give me so much mental stress like the Primarina raid. Let's take a look at it. So these are going to be the dates. Going to be running from the 14th to the 16th. And again, to the 21st, the 23rd. Going to be Tera Electric. That might make it a little interesting. I've seen a lot of counterplay based around that Tera type, which is good to be in the conversation. This is from game8.co. They do a lot of Tera raid analysis. They're pointing out that it will be the Reckless ability. That's the hidden ability Emboar gets. We pull it up on Smogon here. We can read that it will increase the damage of recoil or crash damage moves by 1.2 times. So any recoil move that it uses is going to do more damage. Emboar gets a fair few of them. Let's talk about it. I've tossed in Emboar and some potential movesets into Pokemon Showdown's team builder here just to get an idea of what we're looking at. And these are going to be all the recoil moves it gets. Going to get Wild Charge, Flare Blitz, Head Smash, and Double Edge. Let's look at it from the top here. Wild Charge, almost guaranteed to be on the set. It's its big electric move, and it is Tera Electric. 90 base power, 100% accurate. A little bit of recoil there. Going to be boosted by 1.2 times. That'll be powerful. Gonna have strong electric coverage. It's going to have its Fire Stab covered by Flare Blitz. Big damage coming off of this one. 120 base power. A little bit of recoil there. Chance to burn. Don't want to bring anything weak to fire moves because that's going to be spammed like crazy. It's got a rock type coverage move in Head Smash with a bit of recoil there as well, so getting that multiplier. And it could bring Double Edge, another recoil move. I don't think it'll bring this one. It has just a better version of Double Edge in Flare Blitz, but it's always a possibility. Emboar has a couple tricks up its sleeves that it could pull. Taunt being the big one, shutting down any access to your Sword Stance or other setup moves. If it starts the battle with Taunt, that's going to ruin any kind of screen setup. That'll be pretty tricky. You can also use Brick Break, which it gets Fighting Stab on to break screens, which will break my heart because I'm a support player at heart and I want to set up screens every game. Got Trailblaze, which you can use to increase its speed, which isn't super relevant in a Tera raid. It's mostly just whoever gets the click off first, but it is going to have that grass type coverage. And being Tera Electric, going to make that pretty potent because a lot of people are going to be bringing ground types, so I'd be looking out for that. Finally, it has Knockoff to really mess with your game plan, take away your item. Potentially devastating to certain Pokemon. Not sure if it'll have Knockoff, but you never know. We'll know more on game day. Got a couple different setup moves here. It's got Bulk Up and Curse. I would imagine it would just use Bulk Up Curse is strictly worse in this situation, but it does have the option of increasing its attack and defense by 1 stage. And then status moves, it does get Will-O-Wisp. That burn would be devastating to physical attackers and would really cut down their damage output. If we take a look here, we can see the base stat total. Emboar, a lot of HP. It is a big HP tank. Not a lot of defense, not a lot of special defense, but it's making up for that with a huge health pool. Attack stat, 123. Thing's gonna hit hard, especially with its damage boost from Reckless. Stab, gonna be crazy. Kind of weird that it's got 100 special attack. It still hits reasonably hard. I haven't looked at any special sets. It is a big blind spot for me. I have not done any research on special attack, but like I said, we'll know more when game day comes. I'm not too, I mean, any special attack that it gets is just going to be tossed in there. I'm not too terribly worried about it. Anything that I bring to this fight is going to be bulky enough in general to hopefully just not worry about special attack. Speed, not super relevant. So overall, big HP tank, hitting very hard with its attack stat. Couple coverage options, but nothing too tricky. I think we should be okay. Gone ahead and taken a look here. Back at Game 8 Co. .co, I should say. They have their counter list, and these are all, well, they're not all, but a lot of them are for solo raiding. I don't do a lot of solo raiding. I like to get in there with a team. That's kind of why I built this channel, is I like having companions to battle alongside me, even if it's very frustrating. But there's a couple solo counters here. The first one that they came up with was Mudsdale. And I'm not going to look at all of these because there's a lot, but I picked out some that caught my eye and I popped them over into Team Builder here. I won't take credit for these builds. I did not make them, but this is what they came up with. So Mudsdale is an interesting choice. I hadn't even considered it when I was making my list. They're going very hard on countering the Tera type by going a pure ground type with an incredible ability. Stamina raises defense by 1 stage after you get damaged by a move. Mudsdale should be very tanky and will take a lot of hits. Doesn't have any consistent form of recovery, but what it lacks there, it makes up in how much defense it has. Now, I like the set for that reason. Stamina is a very good ability in this situation. I'm not really thrilled with the attacking moveset, and that's really big for me, is if you don't have a complete moveset, you become a lot less viable. Some Pokemon only need 2 moves to get the job done. Mewtwo needs Nasty Plot and Psychic or Psystrike and shreds through so much. Mudsdale is no Mewtwo. So they're going at Stomping Tantrum, High Horsepower, Curse, and Sandstorm. Now, this is, again, a solo attempt, right? They're not relying on their teammates. Stomping Tantrum, High Horsepower, no additional effect, doubles, your Stomping Tantrum doubles its power if the last move failed. Now, you can proc that if you miss High Horsepower, or if you spend a turn setting up Sandstorm while it's already up. The only time you can proc it. They're going to use Curse, which is okay. It's adequate. You're going to raise your attack and defense by 1 stage, so you're forwarding your game plan while also being defensive. Lowering your speed is not super impactful, but it is very slow. I don't know if you would have timer issues. Usually you want something that boosts your stats by 2 stages rather than just the 1. But having Curse on deck, not the worst. This is what I call a filler move slot. They've tossed in Sandstorm. Sandstorm isn't going to do anything here. The chip damage is negligible. It boosts the special defense of rock, ground, and steel types, but not the physical defense. So this last move slot might as well not exist. And if we look into Mudsdale's moveset, we're not seeing a whole lot that would replace it either. It's filler because the moveset overall is lacking. I would almost be tempted to toss in like a Mud Slap. Accuracy reducing moves are very good. They act as damage reduction because you're going to make your opponent miss more often. Means you're taking less damage overall. So if I was making any changes, I would maybe swap that out. And I don't know about double ground move. It's not super exciting. Maybe we get rid of Stomping Tantrum. And let's see what else we have as an option. You could go Iron Defense if you need it. Although Stamina should already be taking care of your defense. Actually, I take that back. I don't want that. Really don't have a whole lot of other options. Nothing really jumps out to me. Maybe that's just the best it can offer. This build, you would want to use a Shell Bell. You're going to be boosting your attack stat, hoping to recover by doing damage. The stat spread that the website recommends is max attack, max defense with 4 EVs in HP. And I do believe it is an adamant nature. Me personally, I prefer not to die if I can help it. So I like defensive builds. The timer is really what's important, and the less that you have to worry about going down, the better. Something like that, where I will never have to worry about getting knocked out. I really value the timer, maybe a little bit more than I should. So maybe you could invest a little bit in attack somewhere in there, but it's up to player choice. I can't tell you how to live. One of the other builds was Gliscor. Now, Gliscor is something that was on my radar. It is a ground type, so it is going to be immune to Wild Charge or any other electric moves. It's got that flying type to resist fighting. And let me double check here. I don't know how Gliscor feels about fire move. Doesn't really care. It is neutral. What I thought. So it's got a neutral matchup to fire, which is a little unfortunate because that Flare Blitz is going to be the strongest attack coming off of Emboar. But it'll be okay. Gliscor gets a decent move set. It gets Swords Dance, that double boost we were talking about earlier. Earthquake for excellent ground coverage, good damage, consistent. They've opted to give it Lunge to lower the attack by 1. I like Lunge. 100% accurate, always reduces target's attack by 1. Use this the first few turns of battle to build up your Tera charge and mitigate some damage. Then you can go into your Tera and start swinging. And Screech. Screech I'm not super thrilled about. Not super accurate and doesn't go through shield, but it is what it is. This is the set they built, not me. They've given it the Sand Veil ability, so if you team up Mudsdale and Gliscor, you could have Mudsdale set up the Sandstorm, giving you some evasion. Otherwise, you could go for Poison Heal and maybe a Toxic Orb instead of Shell Bell. That would also help prevent any Will-O-Wisp shenanigans. And it'll just come down to what the build is game day. But I do like this a little bit better. Again, they've opted for an adamant nature, max attack, max defense build. And that's fine. I mean, Gliscor is pretty tanky, very resistant. I would almost consider, again, maxing out that HP. Let's see what that looks like. If we go max HP. This thing will never die if you max out the HP and defense. Shell Bell for a bit of recovery, or Poison Heal with Toxic Orb. Good options. Rhyperior, on the other hand, is another option that they gave. They put it in other counters. It's just this first one here. I'm not thrilled about that, because let's take a look here. Rhyperior has a bad typing. It is immune to electric, which is nice, and resists fire. That rock typing gives you access to that. But it is going to get shredded by any fighting coverage. If this Emboar has close combat, this Rhyperior is going to suffer greatly. Now I can tell you why they picked it. It's right here. Lightning Rod. It makes you immune to any electric move, boosts the special attack stage by 1, and redirects electric attacks. So any wild charges Emboar is going to fire off, immediately redirected. And that is valuable. So I will give them that. It was good to be thinking about that. I just worry that it is going to be too frail. So I would consider this a support setup. Like, we've got, this is Swords Dance, Earthquake, Rain Dance, and see, there we go. Another filler move. Doesn't excite me. So what I would do is I would max out HP, defense, jump speed. You don't need it. Shell Bell. Item we'll think about here in a bit. I don't really know Rhyperior's moveset off the top of my head. Is there anything that just screams, use me? Okay, if we're going to go maybe a support set, Helping Hand, Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe will lower attack, and that's very good. Rain Dance, if your allies need somebody to set that up, you can. Mud Slap is probably better, though. Earthquake, I wouldn't rely on Rhyperior to do a whole lot of damage, so I don't really need a very strong attacking move. But it is a solid option. Something you could go with. Maybe there's something you could do with Guard Split. I didn't know this thing got Guard Split. That's crazy. Averaging out defense and special defense with the target. But I don't know. It's got pretty high defense, pretty high HP. I just worry about fighting type moves going into this thing. Probably have a pretty bad time. I think that's enough for looking at what other people have built. Here's some of the things I'm a little bit more excited about. I make no promises that these are going to be good sets, but this is kind of what I was looking at. Because we know Emboar is firefighting naturally. I wanted something that was immune to both of those stab options. Now, if we look at Cerulege, Ghost is going to be immune to fighting. We don't have to worry about that. And it gets the ability Flash Fire. When you have Flash Fire, this Pokemon's fire attacks do more damage if hit by a fire move and gives fire immunity. So you're going to be boosting your fire damage by 1.5 times, so an extra 50% damage. And you're going to be immune to fire. So you don't have to worry about Flare Blitz. You don't have to worry about close combat. You don't have to worry about Brick Break, anything like that. And you're going to be buffing up your Bitter Blade. Bitter Blade is a 90 base power, 100% accurate, recover 50% of the damage dealt. Fire and electric are pretty neutral to each other, so you're just going to be hitting for neutral damage. But you do get access to Swords Dance, you get Reflect, and you do get Clear Smog. Reflect, set that up turn 1, reduce that incoming damage by quite a bit. Then if the Emboar decides to start setting up, you can just Clear Smog, and all of these stats are going to go back to where they were. I've given it a Metronome. You could consider a Shell Bell, but I like this a little bit better. As long as you're consistently using the same move, the damage will increase by quite a bit, maxing out at 2 times the damage after 5 turns. If you just spam Bitter Blade, that's a lot of recovery, and you're only making it more powerful the more times you use Metronome. This does not really account for the electric Tera type, but getting the immunity to both fire and fighting makes it seem interesting. And I think the first Pokemon I'm going to build for this raid will be a Ceruledge. Now I've maxed out HP and attack, and I've dumped speed. I want this thing to never go down. This could be a potential solo option. I think it has the longevity needed. It might take quite a bit of damage and maybe be a bit frail. So it might be worth considering instead of attack, go defense. Because 354 HP invested with 259 defense should make you bulky enough to survive. Bitter Blade is getting damage boosted by Flare Blitz, potentially. I wouldn't count on it. You know, you don't want to rely on your opponents making mistakes. But Metronome should be there for consistent increases in damage. So, you could do one or the other. I'm not sure which one I will end up doing, but it might look a little bit something like this. Next on the list, Pincurchin. Not a Pokemon you see every day, but it goes back to why they picked Rhyperior. You know, ground type that draws in electric type moves. This is an electric type that draws in electric type moves. The reason I would rather use Pincurchin is that this thing's move pool is a little bit better. Chilling Water is a phenomenal move. You have a 100% chance to lower the target's attack by 1, just like Lunge, but it's 100% accurate. 50 base power, very spammable. Access to reliable recovery in the move Recover, so you can take care of yourself. Acupressure, not as good as Helping Hand, by a long shot. I don't think Pincurchin gets it, it does not. But Acupressure raises a random stat of the user or an ally by 2 stages. This is a little silly, I will admit. But the chances that you raise a relevant stat on a friendly Pokemon are not insignificant. As long as you're not increasing speed, I think you'll be okay. It won't always be relevant, but, you know, it is what it is. And I gave the other person who ever built the Game 8 movesets a bit of flack for filler movesets. To be fair, Thunderwave is a filler move. So, it is what it is. Thunderwave is good before the shield goes up. Once the shield does go up, though, it becomes useless. Cannot use status moves through it, so it'll have to rely on attacking moves, like Chilling Water. If Pincurchin got a Mud Slap or an Acid Spray, oh, if this thing got Acid Spray, it'd be over. I would lock in this pick immediately, but unfortunately it doesn't get that. I'm not really sure what item I want to go with. I'm pretty confident that Emboar is going to be making physical contact. Rocky Helmet, the damage will be negligible. I don't even know if it technically works in raids, so you could swap it out for lefties or just some other form of recovery. Pincurchin doesn't necessarily need an item. It's not super reliant, but you can pick whatever suits your fancy. Now, there is a, I think, inferior, maybe not inferior, but a different version of Pincurchin in Zebstrika, who also gets Lightning Rod. Zebstrika's move pool is pretty pitiful, but it gets Helping Hand, so it can be helpful for your allies as they're setting up. Screech, which is only good before the shield goes up, but can lower, or does lower, the defense by 2 stages. High horsepower, just a little bit of ground coverage, non-stab though, and taunt. The reason I have Zebstrika here is it is an option. It's not a good option. I think there are better, but it's worth considering. Just off the power of Lightning Rod. we look here, I've given it max HP, max defense. I can't see this thing ever doing damage reasonably. So might as well just max out the defense while you're here with a relaxed nature. Then I believe I skipped over Pincurchin's stats. So again, it's the same stat spread. Same nature and everything. But 300 HP, 317 defense. It's surprisingly bulky and worth considering. And we have our good friend Golurk. Golurk is Ground Ghost. So it doesn't care about the electric moves, doesn't care about any fighting coverage. Only needs to worry about fire damage. And I'm a bit sad because I thought this had so much potential. But the moves are just not there. It gets Reflect, so it could be a screen setter. It gets Mud Slap, which I'm happy to put on any Pokemon. But I'm just really not super impressed by the rest of the moves. Helping Hand is an option. Then it kind of falls into that Rhyperior situation where it's got its last move slot that it probably wants something impactful, but it only gets maybe like a weather setting move. Which, you know, if you're building around it, that's great, but otherwise, probably not good. I would say Scorching Sands, but I don't want to rely on Burning Emboar. Maybe High Horsepower. Why not? But this is mostly a defensive set, so you would want to do something a little bit like that. I don't know. Has potential. I won't throw my full endorsement behind it. Those are kind of what I've been looking at team-wise or counter-wise. I do have high hopes for Ceruledge. That's kind of my baby right there. I'm thinking it's got a chance. That being said, I do prefer support sets. So being the one in charge of doing damage, not really my thing, but yeah. So yeah, those were my ideas. You know, if you found anything that you think would be better, I would be happy to build it and give it a try when game day comes. I think there's a lot of good options out there. This should be a fun raid. I'll see you next time. Bye.